Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Kelly. I love to read and it's pretty much all I do with my time. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite fantasy books that I've read so far. I have so many in front of me right now. You can't see them, but they're right like underneath where my hands are. I am coming here to you on January 19th, 2025 with my ring light breaking my glasses. You can't see my eyes. I apologize for that, but I'm coming to you after about 10 hours of emotional turmoil because of TikTok. Did y'all see that? That was an embarrassment. That was an embarrassment. Everybody on TikTok was posting their secrets. People were sharing weird body parts on there. People were going all out last night. All for everything to still be there, for us to come back after literally 10 hours. I'm so confused by it. I'm so confused by it, and it's still on my brain, and I had to talk about it because what was that? So that's that, I guess. I just had to get that off my chest because that was such an embarrassment. I was one of those people that was genuinely upset, and I was crying. I wasn't sobbing last night, but I was upset. I have my little community over there, and I love them, and I didn't want them to go away, and we all had this big I love you moment. Which, by the way, that still matters, even if TikTok is back. I still love anyone who bothers to come hang out with me, because why? But I'm grateful if you do decide to hang out with me and my little Elle plushie here. But with all of that said, we're gonna get into my fantasy books that I absolutely adore and would recommend to you guys. For me, fantasy is probably my favorite genre of reading, but with the winter time, especially right now, it is dark outside, it is hailing, and it's really dark, hence why I'm using my ring light. Winter means fantasy to me, and I think now is the best time to get into some fantasy books, and I'm gonna go over some that probably everybody and their mothers have read, maybe some that have unpopular, I have an unpopular opinion about some of them. We're just gonna jump right into it. I have so many in front of me. We're gonna be yapping for a bit. So let's just get into it, shall we? So we're gonna get this series out of the way, but I have to talk about it because it is a favorite of mine, but we're just gonna get it out of the way now. And I still think to this day, even though this has probably been a little overhyped, even though I still love it with every fiber of my being, I feel like this is a good way to get into fantasy, especially romantasy. The ACOTAR series, this is the blueprint, the standard for getting into fantasy romance. My experience with ACOTAR, obviously, you start with A Court of Thorns and Roses. This, I gave it a 3-star. This wasn't my favorite. I did really enjoy it, but from the get-go, I was a little iffy about Tamlin. I was Mr. Tantrum, Mr. Tampon. I was I don't know how I feel about him just yet. I was liking him, but I was I don't think he's it. I don't think he's it. And then I was correct, because this is a masterpiece. This and this right here, these two books are just 6 stars for me. These are just, I could go on and on about them. These were so fantastic. So you get Court of Thorns and Roses, you get the world building, you get the setup. You get this, which sets even more up, but better, in my opinion. This is where it all goes down. This is where you put that Kevin Hart meme up where it's it's about to go down. It goes down. And I've never read a war situation as intense and high stakes as this one at the time, because I was very new to fantasy at the time. That's why I'm saying standard. And then after all of that stress, all of that emotional turmoil that book puts you through, you get this teeny tiny little Christmas special, and it is just the perfect palate cleanser. And then this is where it gets unpopular and heavily debated. A Court of Silver Flames. This is Nesta's story, which is our FMC from the first 3 books. Feyre, that's one of her sisters. She has 2 sisters, Nesta and Elaine, and this big boy right here is Nesta's story. Now, a lot of people love Nesta and a lot of people despise. I don't think there's a middle ground when it comes to Nesta. You either love her or you don't want anything to do with her, and you hated this book with every fiber of your being. I loved this. I honestly feel like I can relate to Nesta to a degree as far as why she is the way she is. This was my experience. You're gonna go through these hating Nesta, You're gonna be like, girl, go away. No one likes you. Get out of here. What are you doing in my swamp? Get out of here. And then you're gonna read this and you're gonna feel so sorry for anything negative that you ever said about Nesta. That's what happened to me. Everyone experienced this series differently, but that's how I feel about it. With that said, I will always, always, always recommend ACOTAR. Always. Now, moving on from ACOTAR, if you want something that is just goofy, if you want something that's silly and funny and lighthearted in a way, but also does have some stakes to it, Assistant to the Villain and Apprentice to the Villain. There's going to be a third book. This book is just so fun. It's not in any way, shape, or form like a literary masterpiece, but the story and the concept is so adorable. You see this guy, this little talking frog? Yeah, well, he's not talking. There's a frog who's like the villain's little sidekick, and he just holds up signs that say random words to communicate. It's about a woman who is just fallen flat. She needs a job. This villain, who is very misunderstood, morally gray, misunderstood, hires her to be his assistant. There's stakes. There is like a battle situation that goes on, but overall it's just so funny. And then this also kind of has a cliffhanger. I definitely thought that this was only going to be 2 books. I was wrong. The third one comes out later on this year, I believe. But if you just want a fun, I don't want to say cozy, but a fun, funny, laid back fantasy type of deal, you go with these books. Now, the next book I want to bring up is one that I actually just finished at the beginning of this month. I have not seen it get any hype at all, and I'm very confused as to why. And we're talking about The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. This was the first book I read in 2025, and I have no regrets. This was I gave this like 4.75 stars. So this book follows Hazel, and she is the 13th child in her family. So that being, like an odd number, she gets left out. Her parents don't really care about her. They never actually like wanted a 13th child, but alas, here she is. They kind of take advantage of her. They don't bother with her. And what happens is her godfather, who basically is death himself, takes her in, gets her away from her family, and is like, you are going to train to be the best healer that this world has ever seen. She's training, and she ends up having to work with the king and be the healer for like the palace or whatever that the king resides in. The king is very controversial, obviously, and it goes from there. And it's not so much that she just has to heal people. The magic system in this book is so unique. She gets the powers of death himself, or like creatures like that. And she gets to see these people's lives through candles. And it's really, really interesting what she goes through and the sacrifices she makes to save certain people that she is not supposed to save. It's basically like a discussion of like morals and what would you do if you had the ability to save someone, but fate has it that they are not supposed to be saved, kind of thing. It's really good. There's a hint of romance in here. It is definitely a subplot, but there is a hint of romance in here. I thought this book was perfection. I want to recommend it because it was just so good. The next one I want to talk about is also a series, and it's currently a little controversial because there are 3 books and everybody thought that was it, but apparently there's going to be 5, maybe 6 books in this series. I'm obsessed with this series, so I have no complaints. I'm a little concerned on where it's gonna go because I feel like the answer is right there, and the answer has been there since book 2. We're talking about Lightlark. Lightlark by Alex Aster. This book and the second book, which I have right here, Nightbane. These 2 were 6-star reads for me, and that's because of Grimm. If you don't know who Grimm is, I'm gonna say straight up Shadow Daddy. Like, that man, he carried this book, I'll tell you that. Like, he held this entire book on his back. This is about a girl named, I don't know how to say it correctly. It's Isla. I've always been taught that it was Isla, so I'm going to call her Isla. Isla she's in this world and she is powerless. She has no powers, but every 100 years there's an event called a centennial where people with powers from all these different realms, I think it's 6 different realms, show up and compete. And they're all cursed. They all lost their powers. So they compete every 100 years in the centennial, and one ruler has to go. You're basically trying to save your realm from being powerless and from yada yada yada, from the curse, essentially. I don't want to give away too much about this, but this is very like high stakes competition. with romance in it. There's a love triangle, which I know isn't everyone's favorite thing. For me, this was a no-brainer. The two male options for our FMC, there is an obvious choice in my opinion. I did not know that Oro had any supporters. If you like Oro over Grimm, love that for you. I'm not hating on you in any way. I am a Grimm girly, okay? But if you like Oro, that's what he's there for. This book follows the like aftermath of the Centennial in the first book, and then after that you get Skyshade. This is the one that everyone's having issues with. I loved this book, genuinely, but I understand where they're like, can we get on with it? And this is dragging out what the obvious choice was. They're saying that the FMC has gotten a little insufferable with this one. I get it. It took me a bit longer to finish this one than it did to finish the first two, but overall, I would definitely recommend this. I have no clue when the next book is coming out. I don't know what else can be done, but I'm loving it, but I'm also easy to please when it comes to reading. So now jumping back into Cozy, I'm going to kind of go back and forth here. This is the book that got me back into reading. And I don't know if you guys know who Kelsey Dangerous, Kelsey Impeachike is on YouTube. She's like a simmer, like she plays Sims. She had this book on her Amazon list of like recommended books. I have not read in quite a long time, but I saw the cover of this book and I saw that she liked it and I was like, I'll give it a shot. And it turned into this. It turned into me having a book talk, a booktube, having all these books, just being obsessed with reading again. And it was just the coziest little fantasy book. There's pretty much no stakes. It's just so cozy and fun. And we're talking about Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This was so sweet. This was such a cute, cozy, get by the fireplace, get your hot chocolate, sit back and read and just enjoy. And then the prequel to this book came out, which is Bookshops and Bone Dust. This is basically Viv's story prior to more detail into how she got here. It'll make sense once you read it, but still read this one first. But I'm talking if you want no stakes, fluffy. I mean, there are stakes, but it's cozy stakes. Does that make any sense? Cozy stakes? I don't know. I'm gonna go with it. So cute. So stinking cute. I will recommend these until the day I die because it got me back into reading. They're not masterpieces by any means, but the fact that these got me back into my love of reading, I owe them the publicity. I want to talk about them. I want to recommend them because without this, there wouldn't be any of this. The next one I'm going to recommend is something that I'm pretty sure everybody's read, but I've seen a couple people say that they're not entirely sure if they want to read it because the premise seems a little weird. So I'm going to recommend it to you, and that is Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. 6-star series for me. This is about a girl named Signa. Signa is orphaned as a baby. Her parents were unalived, so to speak, and she's been passed around through other family members growing up, but they don't really care about her. They care about the fact that she has like an inheritance and all this money, and they want that. They'd rather have that than, you know, actually take care of who they have. But as she gets older, she starts to really want to discover and unveil whoever the killer was of her mother. I don't even want to, because if I say anything else, it's going to really spoil it, but I will say that the love interest, the male love interest in this book is Death himself. I was a little weird about that at first, but it works. It is perfection, and just give it a shot. Please give it a shot. This is very gothic, but it's like the perfect gothic romantasy. And then after Belladonna, you get Foxglove, which just follows the events. There's another murder, and she's trying to uncover that in this, but it's so much more than that. I just don't want to give anything away, and I'm horrible at explaining things. These are Signa's stories. And then you get the third book, which was my favorite book of the entire series, Wisteria. This follows Blythe, which is Signa's cousin. Something happens in the first two books that makes Blythe insanely important, and it follows her story after the reveal happens. And I'm just, guys, this was like a 10-star for me. This whole thing, I love this trilogy with everything I have, and I just want to give it some love, and I want more people to read this because it's so good. Next up, and I'm recommending this one because the second book comes out in a couple weeks, we've got Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I'm probably butchering that. I am so sorry. This is another book that has like hit or miss vibes with readers, and that's totally cool. Reading is subjective for a reason. I loved it, and I need Rebel Witch to come out because I heard that this book walked so that Rebel Witch could run. But it's basically about a woman who is a witch. She's trying to save other witches without getting caught because there is like an organization that's trying to get rid of witches because they're bad for the country, blah, 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 blah. And she ends up having a little love triangle going on, and one of the guys is the witch hunter, and she's trying to prove to him that she's not the witch while he's suspecting that she is the witch, and the banter is bantering, and it's just so good. The ending will mess you up. The ending ruined me. This was one of those endings where I put the book down and I stared at the ceiling for like 20 minutes and was just processing, because that ending was wild. The next one I want to talk to you about, the third book, is coming out in literally like 3 days, and I am so excited. And we're talking about How Does It Feel by Jeannine O'Reilly, the Infatuated Face series, the second book being What Did You Do? This book is going to gaslight you. I'm giving you a heads up. This is the definition of getting completely and utterly gaslit while reading. You are going to believe everything in this book, and then something's going to happen, and you're going to be going back. You're going to be reading like this, and then you're going to be going back pages because you're going to be like, how did I miss that? It's because she doesn't give you a chance to catch it, because it just like bam right in your face. But I will say, you have to get through the first 30%. It's kind of boring, but you need the background, especially for what happens near the end. Just trust me, wait it out. Do not DNF it. I mean, if you don't like past the 30%, you do you. Okay, I'm just trying to advocate for a book that I loved. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I am just passionate about this book because it is just so good. It's about a girl who is a scientist, and this is where it's going to sound boring. Hear me out. She's on a mission to find a Luna moth. It's part of her science research right now. She can't find any anywhere. It's like her dream to find this Luna moth. Eventually, she goes into like this forest and she sees hundreds of Luna moths, and it's her life purpose, and she's freaking the heck out. But they're in like a circle and there's a hole. And she kind of does an Alice where she just falls down the hole by accident, and she lands on like a Saley prince. I don't know how to say that word. And he thinks that she is an assassin that has been sent to the underground Saley world to unalive him. So he immediately locks her up in like their dungeon, and it goes from there. Shadow Daddy, okay, Daddy, you hear me? Daddy, this man. Whoo! The only thing is, it gets really love triangle-y in this one, and I know that's not everyone's favorite, but I'm just giving you a heads up. Love triangle, especially in this one, but I'm still gonna recommend it because I just thought this was phenomenal. It's different. It's like dark. I'm gonna say it's dark romance. It's so good. I'm not that much of a dark romance reader. Dark romantasy, sign me up. Okay, this is another book that I don't think gets as much hype as it deserves. I could be wrong. It might not just be in my algorithm or whatever, but we're gonna talk about Bewitched by Lauren Thalassa. Bewitched. This is a series. This is the only one I've read so far. I don't know why I haven't gotten into the second book yet, because I loved this and I gave this a 5 stars. So I don't know why I'm putting off buying the second book. This follows Celine, and she is trying to get accepted into this coven. And in doing so, while she's trying to get accepted in this coven, they are refusing to bring her in because every time she uses her magic, she loses her memory. So they're like, we don't want to bring you in because that's super risky, and like you forget everything after you do anything with your powers. Holy crap. And then she ends up unlocking something. She ends up bringing something back, I will say, that she was not supposed to touch. It's this guy, and he swears up and down that she is his wife, his queen. And she is like, what in the ancient tomb of nonsense are you talking about? Because I don't know you. And he's just like, my queen, my love, you've come back for me. And she was not supposed to awaken this thing, and it goes from there. I don't know why this doesn't get a lot of hype. This is so good. Next up, this is another one of those series that I feel like I don't really need to talk about because everyone has read it probably, and people either love this or hate this. And I have the second book on me because I read the first one on my Kindle, so I do not have a physical copy of it. But we're talking Zodiac Academy, guys. This series, I only read the first and the second one. So I'm not over here saying I'm recommending the series, though I probably will, because book 1 and 2, I was unwell after reading these. This is so good. It's not a literary masterpiece, again, I will say that, but my love for these characters already, especially this one, because again, I've only read the first 2, you get like every single character, like side characters point of view in this, and you may think that's unnecessary, but no, it is so needed. I'm not gonna go into it because I'm sure everybody already knows what this is about, but I cannot get enough of these books, and I'm so excited to jump into the third one. And I was going to recommend this regardless, because I already know that the rest of the series is going to tear me in half, put me back together again, and then try to say I'm sorry. It ain't gonna work out. So, Zodiac Academy. Now we're gonna go back to Cozy here, because I just finished this book like a week ago, and I cried. The lessons you are taught in this book about who your real family is, and corporate nonsense, I'll say, and how to fight it. That's how I'm gonna put it. The House in the Cerulean Sea. You guys, this was not what I was expecting it to be at all, but I did go into this completely blind. It's about a man who works at an orphanage, and he has to go around to different orphanages and make sure that they're running properly, make sure the children are safe, make sure everything's going according to the code by the organization that he works for. And then he goes here to this little orphanage that has 6 children that are all magic, and the company he works for is like, they are a danger to the world, they are a danger to society, they are a danger to themselves, and we need you to go there to prove that. And once he gets there, it is the exact opposite of what the company was telling him, and he's fighting with himself on which side to go on, you know, and it's just so freaking cute. You need to pick me up, something to make you happy. Trust me, this is so good. Interconnected standalones. The second one's coming out soon, but I don't know exactly how it's gonna go yet. But we're talking about Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I have to recommend this. I'm gonna give the dark romance girlies one sentence. I did this on my TikTok, and it'll convince you to read this. I want to taste your sins. Hello? And on top of that, this is another one of those perfect gothic spooky competition high stakes books. Every creepy creature you can think of is in this. The stakes, the competition is bizarre. The second book is called Enchantra, and it follows the FMC from this book's sister. And in this book, her and her sister are separated a lot, so you don't really get to see the point of view of the sister, and I'm thinking that's what the second book is going to be. That's why it's kind of like interconnected standalone, but I don't know. It could be after the events of this. I'm thinking it's going to be Doring, because you don't see the sister much in this book, but I don't know. We'll find out when it comes out. Read it. So you've gotten a little bit of my fantasy book taste, so you know darn well that I'm going to talk about One Dark Window and its 10 times better successor to Twisted Crowns. You guys, this is one of those where I can say this book walked so this book could sprint. Okay, I gave this 5 stars not knowing what this was going to do to me. This book follows our main character, Elspeth, who, hear me out, this gave me Death Note vibes, because she has a nightmare who is like an actual creature living in her head that talks to her. And it really, if you listen to the audiobook, you might understand better. It gives Light and Ryuk vibes from Death Note. But basically they're trying to cure the kingdom of like dark magic, so to speak. The magic system uses like tarot cards. It's kind of like a tarot card situation. They have to get all 12 of the cards back to save the kingdom. But there's so much more to it than that. And there's a romance plot going on in here. There's morals, there's high stakes. And then this will destroy you. Once you finish this and you go into this one will ruin you. Okay, I'm giving you a heads up, but I'm still recommending it. One of my favorite duologies, the Shepherd King duology, one of my favorite duologies of all time. We're getting there. We only have a couple more to talk about. Y'all really think I'm not gonna mention this? I bet some of y'all just rolled your eyes and clicked off. That's fine. But Onyx Storm comes out in like 3 days. 2 days? Oh my god, 2 days. By the time I post this video, Onyx Storm will be out, probably. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to explain anything, because y'all know already. I'm just saying I loved it, and I loved Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm is going to rip me to shreds, because what was that ending in Iron Flame? Next up, we are going to talk about Immortal Dark. Now, I don't think this book gets a lot of hype, but it should. It's very dark academia, fantasy kind of vibe going on here. It's where this orphaned girl basically joins a school to find her missing sister. I don't want to give anything away, but that's the premise of it. And the love interest, the banter is bantering in this. The stakes could not be higher for her as far as locating her missing sister, and the twist is insane, and I just loved it. The next one I'm going to bring up is one that I just finished not that long ago, but I've not read the third book yet, but I'm going to recommend these two books, especially the second one, because oh my god, the emotions. The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King. Now, I know this is old news, okay? I know this series is old news at this point, but I still loved it. I was late to the Cruel Prince party, but I still loved it. Basically, Jude's parents just get randomly at the beginning of the book, and the guy that does it is like, hey, you're gonna come to the high court with me and train under me because reasons. And she's like, what? But you just, my parent, what? But it goes from there. And then she decides she wants to become a knight and serve the guy that took her in and her sisters, and just Cardan, is that how you say his name? Cardan? That man has my entire heart. There's a bit of a bully romance at the beginning here. I will give you that. There's bullying going on in this. It's a bit insane, but then this one comes in and just rips you to pieces. I sobbed while reading this. I genuinely sobbed. I have not read The Queen of Nothing yet. I need to get my hands on it. I'm going to do that very, very soon. But I still want to recommend it. It's YA, I think. I'm pretty sure this is YA. And they're fast-paced, in my opinion. And it's very, like, fairy tale vibes, along with the super high stakes that come with these. So I just wanted to recommend them because I like them. And speaking of fairy tale fantasy situations, we've got Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber and Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. So there's 3 books. The third one is A Curse for True Love. And I will say I have not read it because everyone says it was a disappointment. This is my favorite of the 2, I'll say, because I have not read the third one, so that's not fair. Jax. That's all I'm going to say. That man. Because basically what happens is Evangeline, which I love that name, she wants to find her happy ending. She wants to find her true love. But the man that she thought was going to give her her happily ever after is getting married, and she wants to stop the wedding. So she finds Jax, and Jax is like, I will help you, but I can give you 3, I have to give you, I think it's like 3 kisses whenever I want, like at specific times. It's like basically making a deal with the devil kind of thing, but Jax, I love him. I adore that man, especially in this one. I was at the edge of my seat, and this is supposed to be like a fairy tale romance kind of thing. I was at the edge of my seat. And finally, we're going to talk about my favorite fantasy book to ever exist at the moment. And y'all are going to roll your eyes because I know there's better books out there. I know. But this just took my heart and kept it under lock and key and is not giving it back. Okay? No matter how hard I try to get it back, I'm not getting it back. Powerless by Lauren Roberts and Reckless. Just, guys, I told you in my first video, you're going to hear me talk about Kai Heiser a lot on this channel. So forgive me, but it's happening. This man, I don't have words. I do not have words. It's very Hunger Gamesy. Hayden is powerless, and she's surrounded in a kingdom of people with powers, and she sneaks her way into this competition that's only supposed to be for people with powers. How do I, see, this man makes my mind jumbled up into a million places, and it's just not working. Hayden is an ordinary. Kai is an elite. There are elites and there are ordinaries, and the king of the elites is trying to get rid of the ordinaries because he just doesn't want them messing with the elite society. To put it bluntly, I will say. And there's a competition, and Hayden is trying to hide the fact that she is an ordinary by pretending to be a psychic because she grew up training on how to pick up on things so she can go and sneak by, because she's a thief. So obviously the elites are gonna be like, nah, sweetie, you gotta go. But she's like, no, I'm a psychic, I swear, I'm an elite, I have a power. And it goes from there, and just, guys, even the novella, Powerful, which I read on my Kindle, 5 stars for me. Adina, I love her. I adore her. And then when it comes to Reckless, a lot of people did not like this, and they said it was like filler and unnecessary. I understand that too. Trust me, I get it. I get why people didn't like this one. However, I could have all the Kai and Peyton banter in the world and still not be satisfied enough, because I love the banter between these two. Sure, this was a little repetitive, maybe a lot repetitive, but I still just these people, these characters, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but alas, it is my favorite. I'm obsessed. Fearless comes out in April, and I need it injected into my bloodstream. You don't understand. The ending, say what you want about the book, but the ending, excuse me. Miss Lauren Roberts, the audacity. Okay, I've been sitting here for almost an hour yapping. I am sweating. I am thirsty. I am hungry. I'm going to go eat now. Thank you guys so much for coming to my channel, checking out these books with me. What are some of your fantasy recommendations? Put them in the comments. We can have a little chit chat about some fantasies that you like. Maybe I'll read some of them because I could use some more fantasy recommendations. And that's that. I will see you guys next time. Bye.